No vacation or PTO until October? Okay, I'm taking all of October off. Posted by Graveyard Pixie. Something happened at my husband's work last night that reminded me of this decade-old story. For context, at the time my husband worked overnights at one of the largest supermarket operators in North America. I was about 6 months pregnant, and the store he worked in had a change in who the store manager was, and when I went shopping, I used either a wheelchair or a scooter with a cart on it due to a disability that makes it difficult for me to walk under normal circumstances. Background. Originally, we had felt pretty lucky that between all the pregnancy tests I'd done to confirm that, yes, I am in fact pregnant, and the ultrasound, the earliest and the latest due date we had been given, all fell in the first week of September. So, my husband had planned to use one of his weeks of vacation that week, and then use his paternity leave after that week so he'd be able to be there while I was at the hospital in recovery and for the first days of our baby's life. His boss seemed genuinely confused by the request. He was 22, single, and called his truck his baby, but had said something along the lines of, "Hey man, it's your vacation, you should use it how you want to." Then, about a week later, I came home from one of my doctor appointments to a message on the answering machine saying, "Unfortunately, I have to deny your request for vacation and paternity leave in September as someone with more seniority has put in for those days off as well. I hope this doesn't cause problems between you and your wife." I burst into tears on the spot, but my husband said he'd go talk to the person who requested those days off, explain that he asked for that time off because it's when the baby is due, and see if he could offer them something to give him those days off instead. Unfortunately, it was one of his coworkers who was going to have major surgery and needed that time off to recover, so we couldn't ask him to trade vacation weeks for us. My husband put in time off for the second week off in September and is denied. Then he tries the third week and is denied again, but this time his boss tells him that he won't be able to use any of his vacation time until October due to his position and who has time off. Cue malicious compliance. We realized that because this boss was new, he probably didn't realize that my husband had been saving all his vacation days, PTO, and paternity leave. When we added up all the time, it amounted to 3 weeks of time off. And if we worked it around to start around when his days off were, he would be able to be home with the baby from October 1st until November 9th. His co-workers on the night crew and several of his friends on the morning crew felt that he had been seriously shafted by the new boss, so they got in on the plan with us. We waited until the boss's day off, and that's when my husband put in the schedule for the time off that he was requesting, which was approved by the scheduling manager and the night crew manager. This was in July, so the only thing left to do was wait. Our baby was born in the early hours of the morning, about 2 days before our earliest due date after 29 hours of stage 2 and 3 labor. I ended up having an induction due to the fact that I'd been in early stage labor since the beginning of August, and it just wasn't progressing. When my husband called the night shift manager to say that I was going to the hospital to give birth, he told my husband to call in if he was going to miss any more days of work and they would make sure it got covered. It wasn't PTO, but it was considered an excused absence. After I came home from the hospital, my mom started staying overnight with us temporarily to help out, like preparing with meals, taking care of the dog, and household chores so that I could focus on taking care of myself and the baby. That first month home was pretty rough, so I was relieved when October rolled around and I finally had his help 24/7 and my mom was able to take a break. The aftermath. First up was the 3 days of paternity leave. On the morning of the 5th day of this 40-day-long vacation, the boss woke me up at 6 a.m. wanting to talk to my husband. I told him that he was feeding the baby and asked why he was calling. He said that he was checking in to see why my husband was no-call, no-showed the night before, and I said, sarcastically, "Oh no, that's terrible. I'll go get him for you." I put the phone on speaker so my husband can talk to his boss while he's feeding the baby so that I get to hear everything. The boss very smugly informed my husband that his paternity leave was over, and since he didn't come in the night before, he would be written up for a no-call, no-show. My husband said, "Yes, I know my paternity leave is over, but my first vacation week started last night." Boss said, "First vacation week?" Husband said, "Yeah, I have 3. I was going to use one in September, one in October, and one in November, but since you told me that I couldn't use any PTO until October, well, I just decided to take all of October off to be with my wife and newborn. I'll call you back after I look into this." I don't know how I managed to stay silent and not laugh at this conversation, but somehow I did. We got a call back later that day that went something like this. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to come into work tonight. I never would have approved your request for time off if I knew that you were taking the whole month off. Husband says, you didn't approve it. The night manager and the scheduling manager both approved this, so I'm not coming in tonight. The boss, clearly thinking this is a gotcha moment, says, I didn't approve it and I need you to come in tonight, so you'll be here at 10 on your regular schedule for the rest of the month, or you'll be written up. No, I won't. I submitted the request in July and you never denied my request. It's been approved by the other managers and it's already started, so it's too late for you to deny it now. I'll call you back. After that, my husband called the union steward to confirm that he was in the clear, and they say that he is. We got another call the following Sunday, which was my husband's next day off, asking if he would be coming in that night since he wasn't listed as being on vacation in the system. He said, am I on the schedule? And the boss said, no. Well, then it's my night off, so no. He hung up after that, but we got a call like that every night that my husband wasn't on the schedule due to it being one of his regular days off and him not being marked as being on vacation in the system. Some of the ladies in the bakery and deli section of the store put together a card shower for us and gave them gift cards since we never said anything to them about when my baby shower was or where we were registered. Oops. Later that week, I made a trip into the store one afternoon to pick up some stuff and introduce them to the baby, and my mom came along too. While we were over there, the store manager came up and said, oh, you must be husband's wife. I was feeling petty, so I pointed out that we would have met sooner if he didn't have a habit of running away and hiding in his office whenever customers approached him. I don't know if that irritated him or if he was planning on saying this next anyway, but the next words out of his mouth were, you don't look like you need help with the baby. Husband said he was taking time off to help you with the baby because you have a disability, but I guess you don't need it, huh? The bakery deli ladies glared at him, and my mom went pale because she knows I usually react very strongly to those comments. But my mom also raised me to be civil and mannerly, so I just smiled and said, I hope you don't speak to your employees like that. That can get you fired, bless your heart. And one of his employees told him I was right, so he sulked off. He seemed so desperate to find any reason he could force my husband to come back to work before the end of the month that I started wondering if he was being petty and might try to retaliate after my husband came back to work, or if he was just desperate. So I called one of my husband's coworkers. Remember when I said that new boss was 22? Well, he also had a habit of bragging about how he started working for the company as a cashier when he was 17 and worked his way up to the management in just 5 years. At some point after the baby was born, District came and did a walkthrough, and it turned out his dad was the district manager, and he didn't work his way up to management. He was a Nepo baby. That burned bridges with more than a few employees. Then he turned up in a brand new truck and said with the year-end bonus he was going to get, he could pay it off in one go. Several employees walked, including 2 on the night crew. Since my husband was on paternity leave, he had to work overnights to make up the slack. He never showed up to cover overnights when they were short-handed before that, so we figured that he was desperate to get my husband to come back because working overnights was cutting into his dating time. Finally, the end of my husband's vacation time came and his boss called again. Oh, you used up your paternity leave in your vacation weeks. You're coming in tonight, right? No, I still have PTO days left this year, and since I won't be able to use them all between November and the end of December, and they don't roll over into the next year, I decided to take them now. Well, when are you coming back to work? November 10th. Boss called back the next day to tell my husband that actually he had used up his paternity leave while he was at the hospital giving birth, so he would have to use PTO to cover that. And actually, he had used a week of PTO when he took me to the hospital with fake labor, so actually he would be coming back to work on November 1st. My husband called the union steward and filed a complaint that his boss was retroactively deciding what counted as paternity leave and what counted as PTO, and trying to force him to use PTO days to cover days where either he went in late or left for a couple of hours and then came back and stayed late to make up the missed hours. He went in to fill out some paperwork, and we didn't hear from his boss again between then and when he got replaced at the end of the following January. Now, to clarify some questions in the comments regarding FMLA, we didn't use it. This was us cashing in all my husband's vacation that he had had for the year, as well as PTO days that we think in total was 29 days, plus 3 days paternity leave that we stretched to 40 by only applying for time off on the days he was actually scheduled to work. At the time, the company only offered 3 days paid paternity leave. I don't recall how much they offered unpaid or the total amount though, so we decided to just use the paid days since my parents were close by. As for why we put up with the calls coming in for so long, simply put, we were both exhausted, and as much as we wanted him to stop calling, period, we didn't want to offend him since neither of us knew how long he'd be there. We had expected him to be gone in 3 months like most of the other rotating cast of the store management had been, so when he stayed longer than that, we decided it was just easier to just deal with him long enough to enforce a boundary. Now this is something where that manager needs to make sure he has his ducks in a row before he goes off and pulls a gutsy move like this. When OP had all of his stuff lined up, planned out, ready to go, the manager was not ready for that and it threw him for a loop. And then he tried everything he could, grasping at straws just to get OP's husband back, and nothing worked. He got desperate, but OP had the plan, the wife had the plan, and they made it work together. Boss did not understand the family dynamic that they were pushing for, and he definitely tried to hit him when it just was so difficult and it didn't work. Boss, be respectful next time and do the right thing. Way to go, OP. Marketing class group project posted by Blonktime. A few years ago when I was doing my undergrad, I was in a 300 level marketing class. In the beginning of this class, we were assigned groups that we were supposed to work together throughout the semester. We were to put together a marketing proposal for a local professional sports team and pitch it to them as part of our final grade. Every topic we were learning in class was to be directly applied to our marketing strategy, and the whole semester our professor would basically walk us through from beginning to end on how to put it together. So early on, we divvied up roles for each person. One person does market analysis, another person does the most applicable marketing strategies, another person does budgeting, and so on. There were about 7 people in our group, so plenty of help to be had for the different parts of the project. Or there should have been, at least. We would meet up weekly, and early on, a lot of it was just kind of roundtable discussion about what direction we wanted to take it. But as the semester went on, we started to notice some people were falling behind a bit. Each person falling behind apologized and assured us that they would get all they needed to be done when it was due. They were just swamped with other projects and classes and bullcrap. Come the final week, when we were to put all of our separate parts together and make it all mesh, guess what? They hadn't done jack crap all semester. They might have had a couple of bullet points on their subject, but it was far from a completed project and basically something any middle schooler could have lined out. 1, they are a professional sports team, and 2, there are no other professional sports teams of this sport in the state. 3, they have a large stadium, and so on. I was ticked. I and a few others in the group had spent a lot of time doing the research and putting it all together in a presentable form that was sure to impress not only my professor, but the marketing team of the affiliated sports group. The other reliable members of my group and I spent a lot of late nights working together to cover for the other teammates' lazy butts. But alas, it was too little too late, and we were not going to be able to submit something presentable by the deadline, and I sure as heck didn't want a bad grade for the amount of work that I put in, for not only my portion, but for the portions of those who didn't do anything. I met with my professor during her office hours and asked for a deadline extension, to which she replied, "Absolutely not. I made you aware of this project on day 1 of the semester, so you have quite literally had all semester to work on this. Why would you fall short of the deadline and need an extension?" I explained the situation to the professor, who graciously understood what I had gone through. She asked me to provide a list of all the members of my team, exactly what and how much to the project they had contributed, and gave us an additional 24 hours to submit what we could. She said that she would take what I had told her into consideration. Come the day of the presentation, our professor was walking around with the marketing professionals that we were to present to, and I think she was listening closely to each person's part of the presentation to verify what I had told her. Some of us knocked it out of the park on our portions. Others very quickly glanced over the topics. It was evident who was a contributor and who was a leech. About a week later, once final grades were posted, our team group chat was flooded with "WTF, I thought we had a great marketing proposal, but that witch gave me an F for it" type messages from a few of the members. I got an A in the class. Oh, good move, teacher. Got a little sneaky move in on those who thought they would sneak on by, but they didn't. And then OP coming in honest to the teacher saying, hey, I need your help. I really see what's going on here. Do you? Teacher seemed like, oh, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever, it's your group. You're responsible for your group. But then sneaking in at the back, coming all together, everyone got what was coming to them and deserved. Way to go, OP and teacher. My boss went on a huge power trip, so I took him down. Click the video on your screen so you don't miss this awesome story next, and I'll see you there.